Team games are where every new player interested in multiplayer starts in AOE4. It's far less stressful than 1v1s and also far more interesting than those snooze fest hour-long comp stomps. And in my opinion, it's the most fun mode. Nothing quite beats coordinating with your friends and winning an epic battle with multiple armies. And if you haven't tried it yet, I highly recommend playing it. But at the same time, team games can be quite overwhelming if you're new. So here's a few tips to help you and your friends get out of gold. Number 1. Don't play with randoms. Just like with every other multiplayer game, there's nothing worse on God's green earth than playing with a lobby full of randoms. I swear the population of people who unironically queue random in Age of Empires is solely comprised of psychopaths and the subjects of future true crime documentaries. Your random teammate will take your favorite color away from you, they will naked boom with 5 TCs and go trade before making a single military unit, they will ignore your pings while you've got 3 armies rushing your base, and when you inevitably lose the game, they will blame you and call you a noob. And that's assuming that they even know English. If you're hoping to live a full life and die of natural causes, never queue team games solo. Either bite the bullet and learn how to play 1v1s, or get your friends to play with you. Or perhaps even join a Discord and make new friends. And here's my shameless self-plug for my Discord. You can always come here and hang out and meet new players if you'd like. Number 2, coordinate as a team. Duh. Alright, from this point on, I'm assuming that you opted to keep your sanity. You're on a team with your friends and you're all in comms, and I'm assuming that you know the basics of how to play AOE4. Far too often I've watched team games that go horribly wrong just because players are too tunneled into their own stuff. You're on a team, act like it. It's paramount that the whole team decides on a strategy from the get-go. And I'll save you some time. That strategy should be one thing and one thing only. A coordinated early attack, preferably in feudal or early castle age. And while you're at it, make sure you divvy up specializations. This means playing to your civ's strengths and massing the 1 or 2 units that you excel at. Druganu if you're China, Royal Knights if you're French, and Longbows if you're Byzantine. Each player specializing in their own unit type means that you can cover each other's weaknesses while saving yourself the trouble of building more production structures, researching upgrades, and managing villager macro. As a team, pick one player to attack, preferably the dirty cow-booming Maulian, and call out a specific time for everyone to move in. Oh, and remember that someone always needs to be the ram bitch. This means getting the siege engineering tech and macroing for extra wood early. Or if you have an Apostate or a U-bid player on the team, they're the default ram bitch because they get the tech as a civ passive.
My tech takes too long to come in.
I'll make rams. I'll be the ram guy.
Number 3, for goodness sake, communicate. Far too often I've seen team games just evolve into complete clown fiestas, all while the voice call is totally silent. It's an RTS, there's a lot going on, and people tend to just tunnel into their own problems. And fair enough, I care a lot more about my idols than I care about your base getting rammed down. But this isn't a MOBA, you don't get any downtime to check out what's happening elsewhere on the map. So if you want to play on a team effectively, you have to frequently communicate what you're seeing on the screen to your teammates. And the thing is, it's surprisingly hard to figure out what to say. By their nature, RTS games are all about multitasking. There's a million things happening all over the map at any one time, and team game maps are gargantuan. The chaos is orders of magnitude harder to manage than even standard 1v1 games, so it's hard to know whether you're actually saying something helpful or just making more noise. Luckily for you, I've compiled a list of useful things to communicate in the game. Always complain very loudly about not getting any sheep.
Wait, nah, you're joking. It was right here, and I'll lose this one. Yo, guys, let's FF. Look at how much sheep I just lost here.
Okay, just kidding. Here's the real list. Call out win conditions. No matter what stage of the game you're at, your team should always be unified on playing towards the win condition. In the early game, this might mean taking out a player in a coordinated rush.
We're gonna start by taking out that tower, okay? This tower is the first objective.
In the mid to late game, this could mean going for a wonder or protecting sacred sites. Whatever the win condition is, it's super important to call it out loudly and emphasize that everyone on the team needs to be playing for the win condition. This could mean tributing your resources to the player that's going to wonder, or defending a 2v1 while your teammates attempt a 3v2. Figure out who focuses where. A lot of maps split into 2v2s. In these scenarios, it's a good idea to clearly define who's going where, especially if someone decides to shift sides. You don't want to magically show up somewhere unexpected while your teammate just gets completely destroyed. Announce wins and losses. You know how in a lot of games you can clearly tell if your team is winning or losing based on whether or not you're hearing
double kill
or
enemy double kill.
Yeah, this game doesn't really have that, but it kind of does need that. I really wish this game would allow you to check KDAs mid-match actually. It really needs a feature like this. You see, whether or not your teammates are winning or losing their skirmishers will tell you a lot about the game state. Sometimes you might think your team is doing well, but if your teammate lost the last 5 skirmishers, their opponent is going to have an army twice their size for the next battle. So make sure your teammates have an idea of whether or not you've lost a lot of troops or not. It'll help everyone plan for the next battle.
Pulling back desperately, I lost terribly. Pranav, you're throwing guys in to die, try not to.
Define the line of scrimmage. Depending on the state of the game, you may or may not control certain areas of the map. In a 1v1, you have a rough idea where your opponent is focused, so you can always play around that, but in team games, it's super difficult to keep track of what areas are safe or what areas are forbidden. That's why it's super helpful to share that info with your allies. Tell them where to rally, what to defend, what unit types the enemy is massing, which mining camps are safe to gather from, and which trading posts are secure. Speaking of which, number 4, let's talk trade. Most team game maps are huge, and you usually spawn very far away from your opponents. On top of that, team games have a tendency to to drag and go long. Long games usually means the team that runs out of gold first loses. And since you can trade with your teammates' markets, you are free to set up your trade in whichever far back corner your team has protected. That being said, trading with a neutral market does net you 20% more gold, so if you can, it's always better to trade with a neutral market. Now, I personally don't advise going trade early. It almost always guarantees that the game will go late and drag. I think team games are best when there's a lot of coordinated early aggression, and if you're in comms, that gives you a huge advantage over your opponents, who more than likely are queued up as randoms. I'm more just saying, make sure that you always transition to trade earlier than you would if you're playing 1v1. You probably will need to trade in team games if it does go into a late game scenario. And always make sure you scout out the enemy and make sure that they're not going for trade. You don't want to be caught in a situation where you didn't make it to the back of Altai until 20 minutes in, and only then do you realize that the enemy's been free trading this whole time. Number 5, know when to call it quits. This is low-key the most important point that I want to make. In 1v1s, you are the sole arbiter of your fate. If you're losing, you can easily recognize when the game's not worth playing anymore and surrender. But if you're in a team, it's not always clear whether or not the team is losing, even if you lost your TC. So don't call it quits too early. I've played a lot of games where one side got pressured hard and collapsed, but the other side won hard enough to carry the whole game. This is where team comms are essential. You're not always looking across the map, but you can give your teammates signals of what's happening. And this is also helpful for everyone to understand when it's the right time to attack. If 3 players show up on the left side of the map, that means that there's only 1 player defending the right side. At the same time, it's important to know when to accept defeat. RTS games can be quite stressful and mentally taxing. It's really common for team games to drag, especially in lower elos, which is a shame because it makes for such a poor experience for new players. Some of those hour-long slogs are practically torture.
Oh my god, dude, this game cannot still be fucking going.
If you're playing a team match and both sides lost, just call it. Save yourself the stress and just go next. And don't get too into it. It's really easy to want to blame your teammates in these scenarios, but at the end of the day, you're all just here to have fun.
It's my fault. I misplayed. We should definitely call it. We're losing on both sides. Let's just save ourselves the time.
It's far better to take a look at the post-game screen to see what happened. Take a look at the military graph to understand who was taking favorable or unfavorable trades. And take a look at the economy graph to see who was booming out of their minds and who forgot to build vills. It's also, in my opinion, a lot of fun to watch replays as a team to celebrate wins and to acknowledge misplays.
Oh, you're walling him in. You're such a fucking... Oh my god.
I didn't realize you were doing this shit.
It's for the stun
That's
tower,
hilarious.
Alright, those are all my tips. So long as you play with these tips in mind, I'm sure I'll see you on the Conqueror ladder within the week. And once you have successfully hit Conqueror, you'll quickly realize that hitting Conk in team games means absolutely nothing. You still don't know what the heck you're doing, and now everyone's just dodging you. If you enjoyed listening to this, it'd be super helpful to get a like and a subscribe, and if you're feeling generous, consider buying me a coffee on Ko-fi. Alright, that's all from me. Stay frosty, stay chilly.